Those that might have been wondering what happened the first time. I'm back and hopefully things are working. Without the introduction, thank you for being here for ChatGPT and fear of missing out. And what happened with the first LinkedIn live stream is I'm trying to show you some ChatGPT stuff on my phone through screen mirroring. I found that when I am streaming and I'm on ChatGPT, I feel like ChatGPT knows, and all of a sudden I'm unable to access ChatGPT. So I have a workaround, but the workaround also caused me some issues with the live stream. So we'll chalk that up to an April start, and hopefully now things are working decently. And I'm excited to be here today. Again, more Chat GPT discussions. Maybe you're feeling worn out by all the Chat GPT generative AI discussions, but I still think it's an important topic just to understand where we are with this and what the pain points are for a lot of us. So just checking to make sure everything is working on my end, and I hope it is. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself, which I have been known to do. So it almost makes sense that that could potentially be happening. So I'm going to be going through and hopefully showing some ChatGPT um, chats that I've had with the generative AI, and specifically around how we use this, how we might use this for our businesses and our professional lives. Okay, everything seems to be working. Let me just do one check to make sure I'm there and I'm working. I'm here. So that's good. And I'm going to stop doing that. So I realize what's happened. Just to let you know, because I'm doing a screen mirror on my phone to get ChatGPT, it also screen mirrored me on LinkedIn Live, which was playing audio of me while I was on LinkedIn Live. Things you don't need to know about this, but welcome, and hopefully I'll figure out how to use the screen sharing a little bit better next time. So the conversation today is really on what we might fear in terms of missing out on using ChatGPT. For me, FOMO is an existential dread, real dread. I always feel when there's a new technology or a new standard or whatever it is, like okay, I got to get on this. And obviously, if it's a new audit and insurance standard, there is a true fear of missing out because that's what I specialize in. I specialize in the audit and insurance standards both in Canada and the US, so I need to be on top of those. But when it comes to things that are transformative technologies or events that happen that might have a tangential relationship to what I do, how much do I want to invest my time in? Where does it make sense? Now, because I work in learning, there's that breadth of where I might need to like dip my toes in, or maybe even go for a dive in the pool. It's a little bit maybe more expansive than others that maybe work in a very specialized space. But when we talk about ChatGPT and generative AI, and again, ChatGPT is just one generative AI. There's a lot of other generative AIs out there, not just ChatGPT, but that's the one that's just getting the most amount of attention because Google has its generative AI. We're going to see more and more. But if you're going to use generative AI, you know, are you using it for fun, for just to see how it works, or is there a fear of missing out? Is there a real FOMO because just like maybe you say to yourself, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain and NFTs, I could have been in on this, as an investment opportunity or some way to create leverage. You might say, well, what's the play here? So I don't necessarily think like that. I don't look at something that emerges and say, how do I monetize this? How do I either monetize it or just immediately try to start baking it in? The one time I did this, I'll tell you, I did this a little bit too quickly, was with something called Clubhouse. So Clubhouse, it's funny how technology comes in and then just disappears if it doesn't, you know, really take a hold of everyone's interest. So I don't know how many of you remember Clubhouse. You can let me know if you remembered Clubhouse, but that was the live audio medium, really the first one where it's not a podcast in the sense that it's pre-recorded, but it's really a way to engage with expert speakers, conversations on a live forum. So it happens live and then it disappears. And now other um, other social media has its. There's Twitter Spaces, there's Spotify Green Room, but it didn't. It took off at the beginning. There was just a lot of activity and tremendous amount of interest in Clubhouse. So I was like, okay, fear of missing out, fear of missing out. Typical Garth. So a lot of FOMO, and I was researching Clubhouse. I was like, I got to get on this. So not really understanding exactly how I was going to use it. Does it make sense for my business? Does it make sense for my brand? I jumped on to Clubhouse, and it was interesting. It didn't feel like really a place for my business, but because there's this fear of missing out, I actually invested more time in it and got deep into it a little bit more than I needed to, without really having an idea of what it was going to do for me. It was just new and shiny, and it seemed like in some way important for branding and social media presence, but it wasn't fully formed. And so there's always the risk reward relationship of how quickly you involve yourself in it. If Clubhouse had become a massive social media platform like TikTok, for example, then it would have been worth potentially the investment. But at the early stages of something that's developing, it's a question of how much risk reward is it for your time, and also what is it that you're trying to do with this. That's probably the most important question. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and if you just Google right now, and I've done this, how to use chat gpt for making money, how to use chat gpt in business, you'll get a lot of articles. How to start a business with $100 using chat gpt. That one is one that went viral, and I'll tell you, it's not great. It's this individual turned $100 by basically asking a question of ChatGPT. Here's $100. I want to make the maximum amount of money in shortest amount of time, and ChatGPT gave this individual a series of steps. But the steps are fairly like broad, and if you work in business development, I mean, these steps, and this is where ChatGPT is drawing information. It's not thinking for itself. It's drawing information from, others that have written about business development and starting businesses, and it's just packaging it here for someone to look at, maybe in a easier way than scrolling through the web or doing research. But buy a domain hosting, set up a niche affiliate website, leverage social media. These are, broad ideas, good order, but is it really innovative in that way? But in a sense, it's innovative in the sense of maybe the type of ways it's recommending how to maximize this $100, the way it's consolidating this information from different places around, wherever it's getting its data set. But this is also like a false flag, right? Okay, I can just start asking ChatGPT to do this, like a business plan, or help me with my return on investment. And where ChatGPT is extremely next level generative AI, but it's still taking information from what exists, and I believe it's what exists in 2021, and understanding what to do within its algorithm to really show creativity, really show interaction, really maybe even again with the writing feel like it's coming from something very human, but it's just taking information that exists and repackaging it in a very, very sophisticated way. um, Absolutely, it has its uses, but this type of article fuels a lot of FOMO. It fuels for me a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. I read this article and I go, okay, well maybe I should be asking things of ChatGPT that can help me with my business. For example, this is why I wanted to use, and let me stop sharing my screen. This is why I want to use my screen sharing. This time, hopefully, it's working all right. So I'm going to share my screen with my phone potentially, and show you a question that I asked ChatGPT. And let me just see if I can try this again. Also, just check in on everyone. Hope everyone's doing all right. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties at the front. And some of you liked my original LinkedIn Live uh, post that I had on for a few minutes. Oh, there's a few people watching, so This is good. We'll keep going with energy and verb. So I'm gonna show a screen of a question I asked ChatGPT. Again, this fear of, okay, what could I be doing with this? What should I be doing with this? Um, it's palpable. It's for me again. I have a strong fear of missing out, so it can really take over sometimes in terms of I should be doing something with this to help my business, for example, because as an entrepreneur, I'm always interested in making sure that my business is functioning on all cylinders. And that made me thinking, can ChatGPT help? So, as an example, so this is now working decently. For example, I asked ChatGPT create a marketing plan for Sharif Consulting. So, sure, here's a marketing plan for Sharif Consulting. Define your target audience. Identify who your target market is. Develop your unique selling proposition. Build a website. Content marketing. Again, these are all really, really good suggestions from ChatGPT. If I didn't know anything about business development, if I was starting a business, this would be really, really helpful for me to begin my business. And again, though, where could I get this information alternatively to ChatGPT? So, part of this is when we talk about how to use ChatGPT and if it's too early or too late or just right, you have to have a goal of like what is this trying to do for me? What can it do? For example, in my space, writing blogs, writing learning articles can be really helpful. So I can ask, write an article about artificial. This is why typing live and talking at the same time can be hard. Intelligence and the CPA profession. We'll see what it writes here. Because this would be an article that I might want to put in a newsletter, I might put on my website. So let's just see what it does. If it is working. Come on, ChatGPT. Let me try that again. Oh, it's thinking. It's thinking. That's what it's doing. I can see it's thinking. So while it's thinking, we'll see if it actually adds something. So that may be something. But the question is, what is the output and what is my brand? So, I have a unique voice in what I do. This article might not have this unique voice, but maybe I don't care. Maybe I want something just to have in a newsletter, in some sort of email release, and that's good for me, right? So maybe I use ChatGPT. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to ask yourself, so you can maybe calm down the fear of missing out. Is there a reason to use this right now besides just interest in how this is working? I'm going to try this again because it didn't go through. Maybe how about this? I'll even be more precise. Write a blog post about artificial intelligence and the CPA profession. This is something I talked about as a CPA. What is the real risks or threats or strengths of this? So ChatGPT again, doing live ChatGPT is risky. ChatGPT almost knows I don't want my answers LinkedIn live on your channel to your millions of viewers, and just in case I say something not good or incorrect, I don't want that to be out there. So ChatGPT is aware of this. Let me try it one more time. Write a blog about. I wonder if this makes for good television. Watching me type uh, questions into tell how much I dated myself. This is good television, good streaming. Write a blog about artificial intelligence and the CPA profession. Let me try this one more time. This was working before. Yeah, it's working now. So let me share the screen. So it is doing this. Okay. So this is an article based on the question. Write a blog or an article about the CPA profession and artificial intelligence. And as I'm looking at this is already like I can just kind of scan it through and maybe I'll scroll it through with you. It's already pretty good, right? So one of the things I could ask myself, right, is it's continuing to write this article about the CPA profession, artificial intelligence. And this is, again, happening in a few seconds. It would take me a while to write this article. So here's the original question: write a blog about artificial intelligence and the CPA profession. CPA is a long road in technology. You would want to put that out. Automated tasks, transforming the way CPAs analyze data. This is hitting on some really key points. So, one of the things I might brainstorm to say to myself for what I do, and this is really the key. So, to avoid FOMO, it's not to look at ChatGPT as everything. Say, what could it do? Could it do everything for me? Could it, just automate my processes? Could it, do my budget? I kind of want to know what specific things you might need help with, and do what Adam Grant, who wrote about this in the originals, talked about with creativity. Really try to think about different ways to use the technology. Just thinking, for very specific ways that might be not only ways that would help your business, but also might add some efficiency. So you can brainstorm, right? There's a creative problem solving process called ABC: analyze, brainstorm, and conclude, and just say, what could I use ChatGPT for, and then get some ideas. In that process of brainstorming, and Adam Grant has talked about this a lot with brainstorming. This is an activity in brainstorming. Like, oh, maybe I can get ChatGPT to write a post for me. So that's important. Is that if you're really wanting to say, I want to use ChatGPT and other generative AIs to brainstorm ideas to how to use it, and then to evaluate those ideas, because the other part of brainstorming, after you have a really just a free thought experiment, no judgment, just generating ideas, is to then evaluate those ideas after. And the evaluation stage there is important because that might actually be very calming for your FOMO. For example, it comes out of brainstorming. Get ChatGPT to write blog posts for me, and that's a brainstorming process. And then I come back and I say to myself, let's evaluate this. And you analyze the pros and cons of how ChatGPT can be used within your business. You say to yourself, well, this is something that can save time on writing articles that I have to do anyway as part of my business. But the evaluation statement is pro and con, right? And the more you understand how ChatGPT works, the more you might ask yourself where the source information is. Where is that information coming from? So that's my challenge in the creative space. So it's producing really interesting that article that I just showed, and there's a few more people on the LinkedIn Live. Let me, I can show it later on. But the question was, the CPA profession and artificial intelligence write an article. It was a long form article. That would be absolutely good for a newsletter or a blog. But then the evaluation process, and this is really calm my FOMO here. I guess should I answer? Is it too early, too late, or just the right time to use ChatGPT? And it depends. That's probably not the best answer for everybody. But what I would say is it's too early, if I were to really be honest. The reason why I think it's too early, especially if you're taking it into high stakes things like creativity or marketing, if it's really low stakes, like just getting advice, maybe getting something generic that's not public facing, that you're not going to use in the public, maybe. But something like what I just did, which is a lot of ways people are feeling that they can maximize ChatGPT, is through writing. Is that where is the source of this information? Where is this actually coming from? And for what I do in my profession, I want to make sure I always know the source for copyright, plagiarism, for erroneous information. ChatGPT is deep learning. It does not necessarily understand that it might be giving information that isn't correct, even in the article that it was produced. So I'm still at a risk averse phase of, I like talking about it on LinkedIn Live. I like going through the different ways in which it's really stepped up deep learning and really generative AI. But I'm not at a place yet to feel like the critical thinking part of it is there. Now, there can be efficiency. So again, that's me though. right? That's Garth Sharif. If you're in the business of writing news articles, blogs, and you're just and it's people driven, and you say to yourself, this can write and produce content. That very specific example. Do I need the people who are producing content for me? Do I need? Can I just like automate this through ChatGPT? Then you may make a different decision, right? And this is where we talk about automation and job loss that comes from ChatGPT. Not everyone will take a step back and say, I am concerned about what source this is. Like Italy, for example, as an example, as a country, has banned ChatGPT because of privacy considerations. And where is this data repository that ChatGPT is using in its very sophisticated generative AI algorithm to produce these outputs? And so, again, since we have a few more people on here, I'm going to share my screen using again, I have to to share my screen via my phone because um ChatGPT, when I am just sharing my screen with it on the screen, I feel like there's some back end um, mechanism that prevents me from displaying that to you live. Like I don't think I don't know if you can live stream ChatGPT. I could be wrong on that, but my experience is I've had a lot of difficulty doing that. So here is, let me share my screen again, the article that it wrote you know about artificial intelligence and the CPA profession. For example, again, if it's working well, write a blog post about stress and the the accounting and finance profession. Something I also talk about. Finance profession. We'll see. I mean, sometimes you have to also play around if you're using it for writing on the type of prompt you're asking. Let's see if it's syncing. It might not produce it right now because I think once it knows it's live, it doesn't always produce the response. But this, as an example, is a pretty amazing article. But as I said before, for me, and where my process is, I'm concerned about the source and actually functionalizing using it. Now I'm using ChatGPT obviously in a way that's helpful by talking about it on LinkedIn Live, and just having a conversational space about it. But actually using it for my business right now doesn't feel like a place that I want to use it yet. Just because I'm concerned about the sourcing. So when we talk about FOMO, if any of you are out there, and it depends on your business, the service that you're working on, I would urge you to do a creative problem solving process with this. Uh, De Bono's six hats, which I talk about, ABC analyzing problem, analyze, brainstorm, conclude, and brainstorm a whole bunch of ways in which before you like investigate how you could use ChatGPT, even brainstorm like ways you could do it, and then you can kind of reverse engineer it and see if it can work that way. And so that's just a creative process. No black hats. No like, oh, this is wrong. This is not going to be authentic. You just brainstorm ideas. This is going to be helpful for FOMO. I think for a lot of people because you'll brainstorm a whole bunch of ideas, and then you'll take a few and you'll go through pros and cons. You might try to functionalize it in ChatGPT, and I've done this a few times. And for me, and what I do, it feels I'm not. I'm willing to talk about as ChatGPT and the next generative AI start to evolve, what they're doing for the economy, what they're doing for our profession, what they're doing for jobs, how we might integrate these. But I have felt like right now I'm okay with not necessarily using ChatGPT in any way that's professionally for my business right now. My biggest concern is the sourcing of that. But that's my conclusion. That's a risk matrix of what's the reward and risk versus where I have my biggest concerns when it comes to brainstorm ideas as a source. But if you don't have that necessarily the same concern, the best way to deal with FOMO is just ask some precise questions about your business and how you can use it. And as you see more and more articles like that $100, how someone turned $100 into more by asking ChatGPT, just ask yourself how relevant that is to you, right? That's and which is hard for me. I am absolutely someone who's susceptible for FOMO. I'm just always like, oh my gosh, this is happening. I should be on it. So to me, though, right now you'd have to like look at your business, understand where there might be some places it could be used, and you might come to a conclusion it's possible that you can, but you might also come to a conclusion which I think it's too early. I think it's too early for a lot of businesses, especially those that are working in the accounting, finance, professional service community, to start using this. I would actually urge our profession to not use it in any professional way right now, because the privacy and sourcing of it is still a bit of a black box. But if, using it to tell jokes to your kids or write a story, privately, that's another matter. But to use it professionally, um, if this is helpful for your FOMO and you trust me, just wait a little bit. Just see what's happening out there. Go on LinkedIn, follow. There's others that are using ChatGPT. I read the New York Times, the Atlantic, and I'm interested. But its relevance to you right now, I think there's a higher risk that we might ask questions about where this information is coming from. It doesn't diminish the accomplishments of this technology, the real amazing abilities of this generative AI. But right now, I think if you want to calm your FOMO, it's the privacy that's behind it. But still go through a process of it. All right. I think that's it. Sorry for the hiccup at the beginning. I might have also frozen here because this is probably the longest LinkedIn Live I've been on because I've had some issues with the LinkedIn Live. But again, I'm a production house of one, and so I'm trying to like deal with the production issues as things happen. But hopefully everyone stayed patient with me. Thank you for watching this every Tuesday. I'm gonna try to do it every Tuesday as much as I can. I'm trying to think. John Oliver does it once a week, right? And again, I'm not comparing myself to John Oliver. John Oliver is a national treasure or international treasure. His ability to both be insightful and humorous and fast with his words is something that I'm always in awe of as a professional speaker. So John Oliver, you're amazing. I don't know why I'm comparing myself to you. I think the only comparison is that I'm doing this once a week, like John Oliver. But we'll deal with any production issues a little bit better for the next time. The last thing I wanted to mention, I don't always do this, but a little quick promo for anyone that might be interested in Canada continuing professional development and in the US CPE. I have some free webinars that are happening. If you go to sharifconsulting.com, this is the Canadian website. So I have a Canadian and US website because I'm both US and Canadian CPA, and continuing professional education, which is the US side, or continuing professional development works differently for the US and Canada. So if you're on the Canadian site, you're in Canada, I have an auditing technical update on May 9th. That's free, 1 hour. We'll talk about auditing technical standards. Yay, audit technical standards. Who doesn't love that? We'll do that on May 9th for an hour. On May 17th, Janelle Ambrose is joining me to talk about CPAs and privacy risks. We'll talk about privacy risks around generative AI like ChatGPT. So that's a great one. We have June 16th, another free event, blockchain and cryptocurrency, and on Friday, July 14th, another free event on the Great Retention. So you can go to my website and sign up for those. Those are all free. You'll get a Zoom webinar link, and you'll get a certificate after as well. If you're on the US page, because you're in the US, my US site works on US IP, you'll see the same course names, but because I'm a NASBA sponsor, there'll be a little bit different verbiage behind it, and you'll get your CPE credits as well for the 1 hour if you attend one or more than one. So yeah, free CPE as I enter, or CPD as I tried to do some business development. It wasn't an idea from ChatGPT, just in case you're thinking, did ChatGPT tell him what to do? Which was, again, not wrong. I mean, if ChatGPT told me, Garth, you need to give away free content, I might do it, right? So it's not wrong, but it wasn't ChatGPT. I want to take full attribution for this. So this was good. Hopefully, for those that attended, you enjoyed yourself and it wasn't too choppy with the first run. It was a test run, and sometimes you need a test run, right? Before you fly to the moon, like Artemis. I'm mixing my metaphors. I've gone on too long. Absolutely, I've gone on too long. We're hitting the half-hour mark. So I like to thank you for all that we're watching. And if you watched the first one, you saw me panic a bit. But, maybe that makes you feel good too. Seeing somebody else panic sometimes makes you feel like, well, somebody else is struggling today. So that feels like my struggles are not my own. Other people are struggling today. But thanks for watching this LinkedIn Live. I am going to sign out, and hopefully we'll see you soon for the next one. Thanks, everybody.